has managed, it's because I'm always obedient to Jim. I'm always obedient. Whatever. Except today. This is my first time of not being obedient to my friend Jim. Jim suggested that I preach this morning on prayer. But I'm not going to preach. Today, you will not hear a sermon. Now, after all of these years in ministry, you would think that I would have learned a lot. But there are so many people, so many of you, who know, oh, so much more than I do. But I have learned this. It's what Jim referred to earlier. There are as many spiritual paths as there are human beings on the face of the earth, and no two of them are alike. And this I know too, it's that if we want to, we can deepen our own spiritual path, not ever by trying to copy some other person's way of being spiritual, but by allowing the way of others to touch us, to touch our own spiritual core, so that we can ask, seek, knock on the door of our own spiritual questions and experience new insights. So what I'm going to do today is not a sermon. Maybe it'll be helpful to you in the deepening of your own path. Maybe it won't. But instead of preaching today, I'm going to tell you a story. It was a beautiful summer morning down on the Texas coast. The waters of Aransas Bay, merely ripples, gentle ripples, laughing and dancing on their way to the shore. The particular summer morning that I'm remembering was at Rockport, Texas. My family every year spent the summer months in Rockport, where we had a vacation home. It was an old house. It had been added onto for over 100 years. Somebody added this room, somebody added that room. So it was a strange-looking place, but it was ours. It was circled by massive live oak trees that had been bent over by the wind. And it was circled by a screened-in sleeping porch. At night, you could hear the wind whistling through palm branches, and you could hear the sound of waves. In the early morning, when the wind and the waves were early morning quiet, you could hear this creaking, turning. It was the old windmill. Behind our house was the caretaker's house. Now, that particular summer, no one was living in the caretaker's house. But apparently, the family of the previous caretaker had had children, because hanging from a branch in one of the trees there was a child-size swing with a little wooden seat and these thick ropes that you could hang onto and be safe. That particular summer day, I was about 5 years old. A Jewish 5-year-old child, running up that little hill to that little swing, climbing onto the swing to go higher and higher and higher. You remember swinging when you were a little child? How much fun it was, how great it felt when you got to that place where you didn't have to be pushed by someone else, but you could pump your own legs and go higher and higher and higher. The wind blowing summer soft, the sun shining, smiling, the leaves on the tree green, the wisps of clouds puffy white, the sky oh so blue as you hung onto those ropes and leaned back, going higher and higher and higher. Now, what I remember most about that day isn't really the swinging. What I remember is that I was talking to God while I was swinging. Now, one of my friends to whom I told this story recently said, "Sounds like your family must have spent a lot of time talking about God." But no, we didn't. We did say a blessing before every meal. My sisters and I took turns saying the blessing. And we said our prayers at night. Dear God, please bless Mommy and Daddy and Aunt Mary and Aunt Helen and Cousin Connie. But we didn't spend time talking about God. Thing is, young as I was, I spent a lot of time thinking about God. One night when my mother was painting my fingernails, I remember saying to her, "Mommy, isn't it wonderful that God made our fingernails so that nail polish would stick on it?" I thought about God a lot. And as a result of thinking about God, I spent lots of time talking to God. It seems that thinking about God a lot is connected to the joy of talking to God a lot. At least that's the way it's been for me. And of course, it helps if the God that you're thinking about and talking to is kind. Kind. A God who welcomes you, loves you, smiles at you, no matter what. That summer, swinging higher and higher and higher, I said to God, I'm going to swing so high that I'll be able to touch your nose with my toes. And I could feel the God to whom I was talking smiling, laughing at that ridiculousness, giggling even. My conversations with God were like that. Easy, relaxed, fun, no concern at all about saying the right words the right way. It was just easy and fun to talk to God. And God, well, God was a sort of person, not visible, but you could feel it. Not visible, this God, but close, welcoming. Talking to God, I felt happy. Now, I didn't have the words as a 5-year-old child to describe that happiness. It wouldn't be for several more years until I discovered what, for me, was the perfect way to describe it. I learned for myself that prayer is happiness because it's the singing of one's soul. It's what we were created to do, to sing our prayers. It's the singing of one's soul. Then sings my soul, "O God, how great thou art, how great thou art." Prayer is the song of my soul. So lovely. David singing, but just as lovely was something that you couldn't see, but I could. It was the number of you who were singing along. You were singing along. Well, since that long ago day when I was swinging higher and higher and higher, plenty has changed in the way that I image God. Like, I no longer image a God with a nose, and certainly not a God with male genitalia. But the core of that childhood experience, that which releases the song in my soul, has not changed. 70 years have passed. Good times and fun times, so many, many times of laughter, but also painful times when tears were all in all. There were the joyful births of babies, 2 little girl babies, now grown up, but also the deaths of people that 5-year-old Jewish child loved. There were happy times, lots of them, but also metastatic breast cancer. There was the warmth and smiling welcome of love, real love, God love, but also, over those years, confrontations with evil, with hatred, with wars and prejudice and bigotry, and the shooting of children in classrooms, and the deportation of people who desperately need to be welcomed with open arms. And somewhere along the way, there was what I never expected. It was this awesome call from God into ordained ministry to speak out and to stand up for the oppressed and for the silenced and for the erased. Good times when there was a call to courage. As Mother Teresa said, justice without love is not justice, and love without justice is not love. Would you play a little? Play. give me a chance to catch my breath. But also, there were those times that were oh so hard, when the call meant trying to do something that I didn't think I could do, or when it meant doing something that I didn't want to do. 70 years have passed. But what bubbles up and causes my soul to sing, that happiness, which is the singing of prayer, even in bad times, when the singing has to be done through tears. The song of my soul is the same that it was when I was 5 years old, and 7 years old, and 15 years old, and 20 years old, and 50 years old. What lifts my soul to sing is trust, complete trust in this amazing realness that some of us call God. A realness which is presence, so close, so intimate, not supernatural, but completely natural. There are flowers and birds and mountains, waterfalls and planets and moons and stars and God, all natural. Natural. There is hope, joy, justice, commitment, peace, love, God. Not any of those things that you can touch with your toes, or only with rationality, but not supernatural. So completely natural and present, sacred presence. Now, I have to remember sometimes to open up the sacred place inside of me. You may not agree with me, but I think that all of us have that. For me, I have to do something conscious to be aware of the presence. It means for me saying the word you. You with a capital Y. You, sacred presence. You, sacred breathing. You, the intimate one. And then instantly I'm aware of the sacred, and my soul sings. Trust. I've trusted the presence all my life. That realness, that natural realness, that intimate you. And one day, as I'm dying, as I'm taking the next step, the next leg of the journey into life, and more life, and more life, and more life, as I take that next step into the fullness of love, nobody else might be able to hear it. Nobody except God, but I'll be singing my prayer. Then sings my soul, "O God, how great thou art."